TWM podcast.
The latest episode of MLW Anthology focuses on Loki, a personal favourite of mine and Mike's. The first thing to kind of really note is, I know they've spoken about it before, and kind of his gimmick in Major League Wrestling is like the last protege of Gary Hart, but it's so weird to see like Gary Hart, Loki, and Homicide as a thing, because it's like it's two completely different generations.
It is, but it's also sort of just a random pairing you could almost imagine seeing in just on the street corner in New York.
Yes.
So kind of get it as well.
It's very much like, for me, it's very much like looking at like the I can't remember his name, the guy who played the record boss in Straight Outta Compton, like fitting in with that with the NWA, that group, like the White Record Boss and stuff like that. It just it does. It's weird, but it makes perfect sense. And we say this all the time, that Loki is just the fucking boss.
Well, he's got the greatest voice in wrestling, for starters, and just loves to kick shit out of people.
He does. It's just brilliant. And we go straight into a match from 2004 from Orlando, Florida. Homicide over Loki. And I love me some Homicide. So this is obviously with context in wrestling, not in general.
What I was going to say, come the end of this match, there almost was one.
Broom related as well. Straight away, it's just great stuff, because you got like they're doing these lockups and Loki kicking his way out of a lockup, which I didn't think was possible. And then like
it's possible. Loki does it.
And then they do like a lockup and he bridges out of it. It's just so good, like amazing graps. These two go for strikes and he hits his like amazing handspring capo kick. They go outside, big kicks. A third kick gets missed, and Homicide like hangs up his leg and then starts working over Loki with like this drop kick and a tope, which you can clearly see is kicked girl in the front row, because she's standing there holding her nose as some guy next to her is like, you're fine.
It's like the time when Osprey went through the crowd and kicked someone in the face in Spain.
Or Phoenix.
Or was it either Spain or France?
Is it?
Well, yeah. If you're a member of the Pena family, it's Phoenix.
Yeah, he kicks every member of that family every time there's a Triple Mania. Like Homicide hits a rough spike Hurricane Rana for a near fall in this match. He misses a headbutt and then Key fights back. We get the Crush combo, which I don't think I've ever heard it called. I'm pretty sure the commentator, who was the old CZW commentator guy, Eric Gargulio, was that his name? The guy, because it was a weird commentary team. It was Eric Gargulio and Julius Smokes. It was
hearing Julius Smokes on comms was just, I don't know, it took me a while to like realize, and I was like, it is Julius Smokes. This is so strange to hear him.
Yeah, like
just on comms, but was brilliant.
He did commentary, and I'm still trying to find it. We will talk about it one day on either on a video or on a podcast. The Urban Wrestling Federation, because he was on commentary for that. It was him, Robbie Marino, and someone, and I can't think of who it was. And yeah, I think I've listened to the Brian and Vinny reviews of the Urban Wrestling Federation tens, if not hundreds of times, because I just love them two talking about hip-hop but wrestling. It's gold. But yeah, like it was an interesting combination. Homicide hits this really rough Hurricane Rana that just spikes Loki on his head for a near fall. Like it's these Kawada kicks. The Cop Killer gets countered into a Liger kick. We get a nice reverse deadlift German suplex and a dragon screw from Homicide, and STF, but he lets go. That mistake leads into Loki locking in the dragon clutch, but Homicide gets the ropes. Key goes for the dragon clutch, but then like Homicide catches him in a roll up for the win. Really quick like match, but just peak Homicide and peak Loki. 2004 was like peak time for both of these guys, and it's just great to see.
Especially when you look at how much they talked about, like how they were massively over in Japan as well at that moment.
Yes, as well, because was it Homicide was Big Japan Junior Heavyweight Champion, they said, and Loki was in Noah? I think they said
0-1.
0-1, sorry. Yeah, that was that time where Noah was just on the come up, and this time where 0-1 was the cool Japanese promotion, weren't it? 2002, 2005. Post-match, Jerry Lynn, he turns up and beats up Homicide because they be feuding, and then Key just batters Jerry Lynn. And they've been talking about the whole match about this mysterious benefactor for Homicide, and Gary Hart appears and he tells them to just batter Lynn. Some fan chats shit and gets banged by Loki and Homicide. Why would you throw anything in the face of Loki and Homicide? I don't know.
Imagine throwing a beer at somebody whose nickname is the Notorious 187.
Imagine
just let that settle in.
Imagine throwing a beer from a man that I shoot knocked out a 300-pound man.
Yeah, there's that one.
Remember, junior heavyweight Low-Key knocked out a 300-pound man in a wrestling match in Ring of Honor. And then Court Bauer comes out and he gets a battering, and Homicide hits him with a broomstick. An iconic moment.
Up the trash.
An iconic moment. You did say to me off pod that there was some sort of great moment in wrestling history from Low-Key coming up. Are you gonna just point this out to me when it appears?
Not necessarily from Low-Key.
Okay, not so. So it wasn't in that first match, because I assumed it was the infamous "he just hit him with a broomstick" that we hear every week on the opening Sting. We then see Gary Hart's business with Low-Key and Homicide. They talk business. And next week, it's Kojima.
Oh, get the bread out. Bread club's coming.
It's bread time. It's time. It's time. It's granary loaf time.
Bread.
It's Kojima. We then see like the business relationship between Key and Slee De La Renta when we first started watching MLW. And then Strickland had the hit output on him, didn't he? Which was taken up by Low-Key. Yeah. And the really built of the professional Low-Key in MLW. We then get to the title match for the MLW title. Low-Key over Shane Strickland from 2018, which we have seen, but it was nice to get some throwbacks here. It was the genesis of the rebirth of Big Tony. Big Tony Schiavone's comeback trail started in 2018 in MLW. You love to see it.
It's so weird, sort of thinking 2 years on, just going, you know, he's completely refound himself compared to back at that point. Like, he had everything, but just couldn't put it all together. Yeah. Whereas now on like AEW, he's just firing amazingly.
Yeah, he's like one of the best commentators in the world right now. It's like that time period when Kevin Kelly came from absolutely nowhere to become like the best like being like the WWE like C announcer, left and then became like one of the best commentators on the planet.
Yeah.
Also,
crazy.
It's just lovely to hear vintage Strickland, hear a bit of the Shaka Khan instrumental, which is a banger.
That is the moment. That is the moment.
But I did pop.
It's been too long.
I just sat there as it came on and then just heard and I was like, we can't do any more because this is on YouTube and we'll get copyright strikes. I guarantee.
Because we sound just like it.
Yeah, I guarantee.
Matty does a mean Shaka Khan.
I do, but I can't do it on podcast. I don't want to get cancelled. The two go toe to toe early on. I will say I remember reviewing this a few years back, and I said I didn't like this match. I wasn't a big fan of this match. Second viewing, I think it's a lot better than I gave it credit for.
It's a great match. It is, I think. Maybe it was because we hadn't really watched a lot of MLW to sort of build into it properly.
Yeah.
But you know, it did end up selling itself quite well on a second watch and knowing a bit more of the story and the flow through to this.
Yeah, it does make a like it just felt. I think watching it just made me appreciate that the whole match was Low-Key just breaking down Shane Strickland with these shots over and over and over again, and they go toe to toe, and then Key takes over with big chops. But this is the Hitman gear that he was wearing in Impact and MLW at the time. I'm always hot and cold on it. And Fight Club Pro. I'm always hot and cold on it because sometimes it looks really, really good, but then at the same time I'm like, you're going to be like this serious professional wrestler, and you're dressed literally like Agent 99.
Agent 47.
Agent 47.
Agent 47.
Where's Agent 99?
I don't know. I always liked it. I always liked it because I was such a mark for Hitman. They got the games and everything. So, yeah, it was. I understand some people may not have liked it, but it was the professional. He was the Hitman at that point. Not like Bret Hart.
I do feel like this might have come again from 0-1. I can't remember. I'm basing that purely on the fact that when Brian Kendrick went to 0-1, he was called Spanky, and then they named him Leonardo Spanky and gave him a techno version of My Heart Will Go On because the owner of 0-1 was like, you look like Leonardo DiCaprio. So I imagine that was a thing from 0-1. I might be wrong, but I'm not sure. So then, like, Key just works over Strickland, just repeat chops over and over and over again. Swerve, it's a big palm strike, but then Key just carries on battering the piss out of him. And then he just locks in the Dragon Clutch on the ropes, into the flash kick. Key undoes his tie and then allows Swerve to hit big chops because he starts undoing his gear. Key then hits a nasty double stomp for a near fall. It's one of those things, like, I've heard Will Ospreay talk about the double stomp. I've heard Jack the Jobber for Cultaholic talk about being given a double stomp by Will Ospreay and being like, I thought it was going to really, really hurt, but he did it really well. I can't imagine taking a low-key double stomp doesn't do anything other than absolutely suck to take.
This seemed to be a week of bad double stomps because there was a couple in Stardom that seemed really rough. But yeah, there's no way Loki doesn't lay those stomps in.
I'll obviously say a week of double stomps, even though everything we watched this week was all in the past. So it's a collective of double stomps.
Our week.
Yeah, our collective week was full of bad double stomps and bad decisions. Swerve, it's a big handspring Rana on the outside, which he should do more often.
That was incredible.
It's such a good move. I love that move. And he gets his big flurry of offense on Key. Here's a half and half suplex for a near fall. This is the other one. Swerve does a catapult, and Key counters it and just double stomps the dog piss out of Swerve, just right there, for a near fall. House call kick, rolling cutter for a near fall, but then Key just cashes in with the switchblade kick for the win. Like I said, so much better than the first time I watched it. And then I'm going to have to go and they show more bits about Gary Hart and Loki and Homicide. I don't know how much they did on this second time around of MLW, because this was like the second incarnation of MLW, I believe. I don't know how much it is, but I want to go scope out some more Gary Hart, Homicide, and Loki stuff, because it just seems very, very interesting.
I'm sure the Gary Hart Loki stuff was only in the first incarnation. Not in this.
Well, no, because I think there was one that was like 2002 for a bit, and then it like disappeared, and then came back in like 2004. That's why the commentary's different with like, Joey Styles and stuff. We then get the quarantine roll call, and we got we got another montage. The blue beanie was outside.
So do you know that this actually has its own name and is technically like a separate thing?
Yeah, it's the Pulp Fiction from ECW
Anthology. No, it's Pulp Fusion.
Oh, Pulp, yeah.
They should have called it Piss Fusion. But
yeah, discussed, like, yeah, no, they knew there'd be a lawsuit if they called it Piss Fusion, to be fair. Yeah, no, it is the Pulp Fusion, which is the old throwback to the Pulp Fiction end of ECW show, which is a nice little callback. And it does start with Blue Meanie outside the 2300 arena, just giggling like a maniac. Jordan Oliver was drinking in the park. That's not legal, he's 14. And he was basically being asked about who was joining Injustice. Gino Medina's talking about saying like no comment in regards to his status with the Dynasty. So is he left the Dynasty, or I don't know what's going on there.
I don't know. I think they're playing off some of these little things because of, like, they announced, that tapings have been moved back again. So I don't think they're set to take till either late August or September, maybe.
Yeah,
the next set.
Yeah.
If not, maybe October. So maybe they're worried about issues with. Well, the Gino is US based, so who knows? They might be looking to break them up because it hasn't really worked. I don't think
it started off well, and then it clearly showed whether we're going to push Medina as the big deal. They've kind of really seen that Hammer and Holiday are the money pairing, so we'll have to wait and see. LA Park in a glorious Poundland rip-off Bullet Club shirt. Challenge Contra to any match they want. Mance Warner had some words for Contra, saying if they think they can tell him what to do. Richard Holiday wants to buy MLW and then sell it for a profit. I hear Vince McMahon is interested.
And then buy it back.
And then buy it back. Savio Vega is going to remove Holiday's mustache. Tom Lawler and Dominic Guarini are planning to go on the pull. Lads. Conan called out Joseph Samael for ruining his AAA show. Myron Reed basically talked about Injustice. The Von Erichs were incredibly dull and spoke about champions. And then Hammerstone wants to win the heavyweight championship. And then LA Park was attacked by Contra just off camera, annoyingly, so we couldn't see what happened.
Well, it was at least half a body of a Contra member. I can't for certain say they had an upper body because all we saw was legs and kicks.
So you saying that it was the dad from Cow and Chicken?
Yes.
Has joined Contra. Reference.
They're everywhere. They were in the Cartoon Network 20 years ago.
Contra. If you change around the letters of Cartoon Network, it stands for Hail Contra. My God, we're through the looking glass here, people. And then Samael gave a warning to MLW as the show closed. Like it was a fun episode. I had some low key kicking people very, very hard. It's amazing how MLW are still doing storyline progression without doing actual shows.
It's outstanding. Like you can't commend them enough. And I think a really big thing they're going to find from it is all the talent they're going. They're developing a different set of skills where they're not able to work in a ring. That's going to be one of the things I think that's going to stand them out coming back. And then once they can run shows again, they're going to have loads of storylines just bang ready to go.
Yeah, they've got so much stuff in the chamber right now that when MLW comes back, they will be firing on all cylinders.